All right, Gamecock fans, I told you you'd be hearing from me tonight again, possibly. This is JC Shurburtt, thebigspur.com, and also inside the Gamecocks show, Chief Sports South Carolina. Appreciate all you YouTube followers following along here on right before Christmas. Hope you're having a Merry Christmas and out getting some of your shopping done and getting that last meal prep in. I know I had to go to Walmart today, so yeah, that's some time off my life I'll never get back, but it's an interesting place for sure on Christmas. Well, good news then for the Gamecocks. And it may not be great news for next year, like on the surface, because obviously LaNorris Sellers coming back and being the quarterback next year is going to, well, let's just say there's a lot of expectations that he'll be the quarterback next season and do a pretty good job. But you have to have players behind your quarterback, as we know. Robbie Ashford was invaluable this year in a lot of situations, especially early in the season. And South Carolina, Dante Reno's a guy that will compete as a redshirt freshman next year. Cutter Woods is a true freshman coming in with all the talent in the world. But you'd like to add more to the room. You don't want just three because there's been schools around the country, programs that have lost three and have been forced to go with a walk-on. I think Florida actually got to three when Lagway was out, and of course Mertz was out for the season, and that was that Texas game. The Gators kind of got ran all over 49-17. So you don't want to get in that situation. We saw that in 1999. We saw kind of a revolving door at quarterback in 2021 here, and the Gamecocks really were fortunate to get to 6 wins and get to a bowl. So you never know. And I think the idea is to get as many talented guys as you can, and they got one out of the transfer portal in the form of Ohio State transfer Air Noland. Now, Air is from Langston Hughes High School in the Atlanta area, Fairburn, Georgia, was a top 10 quarterback prospect last cycle, the class of 2024. Left-handed passer, good passer, a decent runner, not a statue in the pocket by any means. Was a track athlete in high school. Probably not the runner LaNorris Sellers is, but not very many are. And is a guy that is really competitive. And I did some checking on him over the weekend, talked to a couple of good contacts who kind of watched him in high school. And they said this guy's a competitor. He just gets out there and competes. Really fits, I think, the program with that type of attitude. Kind of a guy that really trusts his arm, and that means he takes risks at times. So there is some coaching up that needs to be done in that instance, obviously. But you want a quarterback with confidence. You want a quarterback that thinks he's going to win every time he steps on the field, and that's Air Noland. By all accounts, I think that one positive thing when you look at him is he went to Ohio State. When you look at those guys and their track record with quarterbacks, they basically sign every good one they can get, and then it all sorts itself out, and guys end up transferring. And Joe Burrow transferred out of there, Kyle McCord transferred out of there. They did pretty okay, right? At the end of the day, I think I mentioned those in the video the other day, but and I just rhymed like 4 straight sentences there. That's weird, but you know, you, a guy signs with Ohio State and then transfers. That's you're usually getting a pretty good quarterback. Now he was only there a year. Played this season for Chip Kelly and Ryan Day up there at Ohio State. But like looking for a new start, and I think this is the type of guy too that knows Mike Shula or knows who Mike Shula is. The quote coming in was that he really likes Shula, and of course Mike Shula coached a guy that's well known in Atlanta, Cam Newton, for the Carolina Panthers, and I think that helps. I think that when you look at Shula's track record as far as developing quarterbacks, it's going to be attractive. Folks were kind of worried about recruiting. Here's a guy that hadn't recruited really since he's been was out at Alabama. He got let go in December of '06, I think. Yeah, December of '06, because Saban came in and took over in '07 and has been in the NFL ever since. But sometimes those guys that come back from college to college football or that have been up there for a while and come back, they're either guys that aren't totally interested in doing it or they're guys that really kind of embrace it because, up there you kind of get what you're given by a GM and a personnel department down in college. You sort of control your own destiny. Steve Spurrier talked about that when he came back to college. He's like, I get to pick my own guy. And so sometimes they embrace it. And I think just from talking to people that know Mike Shula that worked with him this year, he was already well aware of all the recruiting stuff going on at Carolina. He helped out. He was a really good recruiter at Alabama. So this does not surprise me at all. But if you're going to get a transfer portal quarterback, I think it's probably a little more difficult to get a guy that's been somewhere for a while, like a Robbie Ashford, that is coming in knowing he's probably not going to start. That was a very good pickup for the Gamecocks late. It's a little bit more difficult to do that. It's a little easier to sign a very talented young guy that you can kind of develop. It's kind of like Jaden Rashada going to Georgia from Arizona State in the portal last year. So you have that guy, that young guy. He'll be a redshirt freshman next season with 1 year under his belt at Ohio State, and he'll compete with Dante Reno and Cutter Woods to see who's the backup. And he's a guy that I think if you have the opportunity to get him, that you do, and they did. So that's good. I think that's a very good sign for the program moving forward that here's a guy that's 1 year removed of having offers from everybody in the country, goes to Ohio State. When you sign with Ohio State as a quarterback, it's a big hype train, and rightfully so. They've got a great track record. And, it just wasn't for him. I think he wanted to go someplace. Maybe he could play, and this was a very attractive situation for him. Just looking at him, like I said, a guy that trusts his arm, left-handed quarterback. I can't remember lefties at Carolina. None come to mind off the top of my head. I'll have to go back and research it. I'm sure there's one I'm forgetting. But, I think that lefty, that's a good deal. It's just a little different. He's got a very good arm. Threw for a bunch of yards in high school. Threw for more touchdown passes than Trevor Lawrence and Deshaun Watson in high school. So he's a guy that at that level really was consistently good at putting up yards and throwing touchdowns and things like that. And that's always pretty valuable. I think it's a guy that's done it and that's put up massive amounts of yards and things of that nature. So you can bring him in here and go through winter and go through spring. He can practice, he can get good and compete for that backup spot. And then away you go. He's probably a guy that will definitely have something to say. If LaNorris Sellers has a great year next year and decides to go to the NFL, he's draft eligible, then Air Noland could be the heir apparent. I'm not saying he will be. I like Cutter Woods too, and I don't dislike Dante Reno. I think Dante Reno still has all the arm talent and all the things that made him a worthy quarterback recruit. But this guy, Air Noland, is a really good pickup. I think just from the standpoint of, you're only looking at three quarterbacks. Two of them are awfully green. One's LaNorris Sellers, your starter. God forbid something happened and Sellers has to go out. I mean, Sellers' helmet falls off. Has to go out of the game. Are you going to have a guy, behind him that can come in and not be a disaster, so to speak? And I'm not saying that's definitely Air Noland. I'm saying what you want to do is compete for it. Because when you compete for it, everybody gets better, right? If it's just one scholarship quarterback behind LaNorris Sellers, that guy's probably going to know he's the backup. And I'm not saying Reno and Woods would not work hard. That's not who they are. But I do think competition does make everybody better, makes everybody execute a little better, pay attention a little bit better, all that stuff. Remember, these guys are getting paid, but they're still college kids. On that note, I don't think the Gamecocks had to break the bank NIL-wise for this guy. And I'm sure you've read today that a Duke quarterback from Tulane got $8 million over 2 years from Duke, which is insane. I say more power to you, man. You want to do that, put out that kind of cheddar. Um, More power to you, man. I mean, for a new guy from the transfer portal. Yeah, I'm not saying that certain players who are already established on your roster at that position don't deserve to get paid, but I, you know, to me, I like the kid from Tulane an awful lot. I thought he was a really good player, kind of a find out of California by that staff. But, Duke said goodbye to Malik Murphy. He's at Kentucky now. And then they signed this guy. I don't, we'll see. They went 9-3 this year. So I'm going to be quiet and not be critical of Duke football, man. Hey, whatever works for those guys. I just think that, man, that's an awful lot of money for that level of player that's coming into your program new. I mean, he better be. I mean, how much better is he going to make Duke? They'll be 10-2 next year. They win the ACC. Will they be next year's Indiana and get in the playoff? Will they be next year's SMU? Probably depends on the schedule. I can tell you without the shadow of a doubt that with Air Noland, South Carolina did not do that. It was a very fair deal, I think, on both sides. And I think it's a pretty good fit for Air and the Gamecocks. So he committed to South Carolina. News broke about an hour or so ago. So there you go. Also wanted to update you guys on Miles Norwood, a corner from Ball State now, but he's heading to his fifth school. He's from the St. Louis, Missouri area. He has Gamecocks in Kentucky, maybe 50-50. Lean to South Carolina from what folks say, but wouldn't surprise me either way. But he's announcing on Christmas Day, so there we go. I guess we'll see then. Yeah, pretty good little player from Ball State this year, Miles Norwood. Like I said, it's been to a lot of different schools, but we'll see how it all pans out, if he gets to Carolina or Kentucky. Kentucky's got a lot of spots, and Kentucky's got probably some available money NIL-wise to kind of throw around right now because they lost a lot of good players. So we'll see kind of how that goes. But that's an update on that. I didn't mention him in the earlier video. Also with Justice Haynes, I know there's a lot of predictions out there about Michigan. That's fine. I just will say that the latest news is it's down to Carolina and Michigan, and we'll see which way it goes. I also was told by a contact earlier that this is not about money with Justice. If he wants to go to Michigan, it's because he likes what Michigan brings to the table as a program more than he likes what South Carolina does. And that happens too. Sometimes you have good old-fashioned recruiting decisions, even in today's portal era. But it's not a money situation with him at all. And that's good. He's a good kid. No matter where he goes, Justice Haynes, good people. So we'll see what kind of happens there moving forward. All right. So barring anything crazy happening between now and, I don't know, here in a little bit, I'll talk to you guys again probably on Christmas Eve. JC Shurburtt, thebigspur.com, Inside the Gamecocks, the show. Air Noland, portal quarterback for this class, South Carolina Gamecocks. All right, folks. We'll holla at you later.